Hi there. I'm Kathryn McBride from McIver's Grant Public Library, and we're in Dyersburg, Tennessee. And today I'm going to be talking about the fourth section of the book, Code Name Helene. This section is called Helene. The book, of course, is written by author Ariel Lahan. We're so excited about the fact that she'll be joining us on March 25th at 6 o'clock for a live Q&A on our Facebook page. So if you are free and by your computer or your phone, we would love for you to join us. You can put your comments and questions to the author right there, and I'll be asking her those questions live as well. So even if you aren't able to join, I'd love to still share with you some of my thoughts about this section of the book. It's going to be so interesting. So I've got a few notes, of course. And of course, the first thing that's really hit me is the fact that we've heard all sorts of stories these days about people who, and throughout history, people who consider themselves ordinary and unassuming, who rise to meet great challenges. Of course, if there was anyone unaware of this in 2019, they certainly discovered it in 2020. The fact that great challenges come to all of us, regardless of whether we are ready for them or not. And of course, some of you out there might be like me. You're easily able to access this video. I have the time, resources, and luxury to read the book and pursue other enjoyable hobbies. So the idea of being caught in a civil war or invaded by other countries or put under military rule is just completely inconceivable to me. Yet I know that there are people around the world living in that state right now. In the news, of course, we heard about how just late last year the U.S. seized shipping containers of products made from the human hair of Muslims in concentration camps in China's western Xinjiang province. This is the same area where Disney filmed Mulan last year. Myanmar, of course, there, teachers, lawyers, bank officers, government workers have been protesting in the streets, despite the fact that water cannons, rubber bullets, and live ammunition are being used against them by the Myanmar military, which took control of the country at the beginning of last month. And for years now, we've heard about Syrian citizens, families, and children who are living within a 10-year civil war, begun in protest of the government's actions against human rights, such as arbitrary detention, torture, and disappearances. I don't know about you, but that sounds a whole lot like Nancy Wake's life in 1944. Now, I don't know if it's really honest to call Nancy one of those ordinary and unassuming folks that we mentioned earlier. She's a dynamic personality, for sure, from the beginning of the book. But at this point, she has certainly risen to that great challenge that I referred to. In fact, as I read up to this portion of the book, it seems as though the tragedies and horrors have just become larger. The violence becomes worse in the book as time goes on. Yet, on the other hand, I have found a deep satisfaction in watching the development of Nancy unfurl as she has realized self-actualization in her role as Helene. Self-actualization, this is one of my favorite phrases. This refers to Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, and self-actualization is the highest level of psychological development, where personal potential is fully realized after basic bodily and ego needs have been fulfilled. We also are beginning to see now how this incredible Mobius strip of a timeline is beginning to circle back on itself, and it's been so clearly, carefully crafted by author Ariel Lahan. We are getting closer to the beginning of the book. We're getting closer to the completion of the war, since after all, we're all familiar with some of the general time frames and highlights of World War II. And we're beginning to sense a fulfillment of Nancy and her relationships with this amazing cast of real characters. What I am also beginning to really appreciate about the character of Nancy is that it's really difficult to determine whether or not she would have reached her full potential, whether she would have become some iteration of the powerful force that is now Helene, without the catalyst of a world war and the deep love of Henri to push her. Though I do tend to think that no one really becomes their best self without struggle and without pain, but it's also impossible to separate yourself from your experiences in real life in order to examine that relationship, and we can't really do that with Nancy Wake either. It seems as though almost to do so would be to trivialize the terrors that she and others around the world have lived through. It is making me very introspective, however, and it's helping me to look back on painful times with appreciation, times that ultimately have become a part of my identity and a part of myself. And so I guess I'm curious to hear from you, and of course comments at the bottom of this YouTube clip are going to be available for you. I would love to hear your thoughts on whether or not that struggle has been deeply informative of who you are, if you think that that is absolutely necessary. Pain and hard times, difficulties are necessary to become ourselves and to inhabit our potential, or whether it's possible without that. It's an interesting dilemma, especially I would assume for any of those of you out there who are parents, wanting your children to become their best selves, and yet at the same time wanting to protect them from the horrors of the world. It's an interesting dilemma, and one that we all end up having to work through on our own. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And of course, come back here soon to hear another staff member's thoughts on the final portion of the book, and then obviously to join our live event with Ariel Lahan. So until then, take care.